Hello, and welcome to PioStream Watchback, a look back at some of the most recent and best moments in Lewis and Clark athletics history. I'm Ryan Goff, and this is our third episode, but it's the first to take a look back at an entire season of one of our athletics programs, and that is cross country. We take a look back at the 2019 season, which was the first under head coach Matthew Burrow that saw a lot of progress for both the men's and women's teams. Most notably, a move from last to third place in the Northwest Conference Championship finish for both sides, men's and women's. Plus, Lewis and Clark had the Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year and its first Nationals qualifier in nearly a half decade. We want you to share your best memories of last season. You can do so in our comments as we watch with you this episode of PioStream Watchback, the 2019 Lewis and Clark cross country season. And with that, let's get started with some introductions.
I'm head coach Matthew Burrow. This is my second year here at Lewis and Clark. Had a great first year last year, 2019, 2020, and looking forward to going through some of last year with you guys today.
I'm sorry. I'm Jeff Randall. I was assistant coach last year. It was my first year coaching Lewis and Clark, and I'm also looking forward to recapping last year with you guys.
John.
I'm Sean Richardson. I graduated last May. I graduated as a math / computer science and physics major, and I am from Portland.
Yes, I'll go. I'm Jack Hyde. I'm a junior here at Lewis and Clark, and I'm an econ / math / IA major at the moment. I'm gonna have to pick two pretty quick here.
Oh, and I'm Adeline Greaser. I'm also a junior. I'm a math major and seeing if I can work in a German studies major somehow without going abroad, not sure. And I'm from Seattle, Washington.
John, you have that meeting with me. I start telling you things that might be possible for you outside your ability, and then this first race I tell you to just chill. Kind of talk me through the almost mixed messages that could be sending, and what that first race kind of meant.
Sure. Well, I think I was definitely okay with just kind of relaxing the first race. In general, just usually the first race of the season, I just kind of want to get a better feeling of what my fitness level is, where I'm at. And so I just relaxed this first race. And this was a fun first race because got to run in a group with Matt especially throughout a lot of this first race. And which is always fun because it's not in past years I often wouldn't be able to run with my teammates for very long. So it's always fun just to race with your teammates.
Yeah. So in the second meet, we get in the bus, and I think that's the infamous Sean was coming late to the bus, but our bus wouldn't start, and Miguel was coming late, and coach is trying to figure out which hammer to throw down, but the bus won't start, so I can't really say the bus left you. And then the bus finally gets going, and we make it a 1 mile down the road, and we've got to make a quick decision to jump in vans and find our way down to Western with a smaller group. So that race kind of started off interesting and rocky, but I guess that was just an interesting time. But how did that affect or not affect kind of our heading into the second meet, or how how was my reactions to what was happening? How did that affect you guys or not? Like, did it, did I start showing some calming influence on like, hey, we're just going to still go do what we need to do? Or, how was that a moment for you guys?
Yeah, I wasn't there. I was going home that weekend. So I just heard stories of this meet. And I think Hannah maybe told me something about how, like, oh, they all like squeeze into a van and get there. And there's like 10 minutes before the girls' race is supposed to start or something. And she was like, yeah, I just like got out of the van and started racing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that sounds crazy, but yeah, I wasn't there.
I think the one constant we had was Sean's mom's cooking at the end of meets. She routinely bring us some snacks, but
I recently got a loaf of pumpkin bread. Connor got a couple pieces of that too. It was great.
Oh, I miss the pumpkin bread.
Do you think she could send me some?
might be able to get it to Iowa.
Probably.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That Western Oregon meet, Sean, I guess how was your focus going into that race? We were racing up against University of Oregon that race, and they a couple other solid teams. George Fox was there. That's one of our big rivals, which we'll get into later in the season. But George Fox was there. Several other local our conference rivals. But how'd that race play out for you?
Which race was this?
The Western Oregon race.
Western Oregon.
Yeah. You and Matt side by side that entire race, like.
Oh right. Okay. Oh yeah. The same.
Exact same time. He actually beat you by the results.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he just got me by maybe a tenth of a second. Yeah, it was a fun sprint finish. But yeah, we were just side by side the entire time. We started off slower and just kind of made our way up and up throughout the race, and we both finished pretty high up.
Both maybe in the top 20 of that race.
20, yeah. So yeah, that was a really fun race. Again, it's always just fun to run side by side with a teammate the whole way, even if they do happen to just edge you out in the very end. Yeah.
So that race, could have been a debacle for us. We kind of added it last minute on the schedule. I don't generally enjoy back-to-back weeks of racing, but a few people wanted to race a little bit more, so we added that, and I think we handled that pretty well. But then we go to PLU next, and I think that's the first one Jeff joined us at, and that was we had some frustrating moments on the women's side for sure. Some PRs happened, but Jeff, if you want to jump in here and echo any thoughts I have about we had PRs, but there was no group running, no group mentality. It was here I am, I'm doing my thing, and yeah. I don't know what you remember from that race, Jeff.
I remember us talking after the race about how are we going to tell them without hurting their feelings that they need to make some changes. This was very early. I mean, I think I had attended that one long run on the, at Mount Hood, where the infamous walk that I had with Jack, it was like an hour and a half long walk on the PCT. And maybe one other long run. Like, I think that's all I had done. And then I came to this meet and I didn't really know, I was still learning people's names, and it was, I didn't know exactly how to deliver that news, but
Yeah, I mean, you didn't know much what's going on, but I know I was steaming and just like,
yeah,
how do we tell them they ran well, or they PR'd, but they ran nowhere near what they should have and
right.
didn't work together.
Yeah. And I mean, Adeline, you nailed it on the first race that I wasn't even at. It was like we just didn't know how to run together. And I think that talk, I don't know what it was like to be on the receiving end of it.
Yeah. So Adeline, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Let's see. So I think I did actually PR at that race.
Yeah,
But again, like Jillian was 3 steps behind me the whole way. And I mean, I remember feeling like, okay, either like she needs to run with me or like I don't know what the other option is here. So I was a little frustrated. And then like I was feeling okay about my performance because it was a PR. It wasn't a great time still anyways, but I'm pretty sure it was.
It's 25:30.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And yeah, then I was like feeling okay. And then we come into this team huddle afterwards, and you're like, okay, so you ran well, but you didn't, was basically what I got out of it. And I was like, oh, so he's like not happy that we ran well. But then I think, was it the week after this race that we did all those 800s in the graveyard? I think it was this week, and we were supposed to do pace day, but you changed it on us. And you said, okay, we're going to do 800s, and I'm not telling you how many. Just do them and keep getting faster on every single one.
Work together, yeah.
Yeah, and work together and do that. And I think I did 11. And we just kept doing them. And somehow we all were figured out okay, if we work together in this way, we can get faster with each one and actually do this workout. And I think on the maybe 8th or 9th one, I remembered we were supposed to lift afterwards. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to lift. This is the hardest workout ever. And then you're like, okay, if we do, after the 10th one, I think you said something like, okay, if Adeline runs under 3 minutes and if Edda's under 350 or 250 or something, you guys don't have to lift. And then we all did that and we didn't lift. So, but yeah, that was a weird race. I have raced that course since high school. I raced there in high school some, and I've never done well there. So I guess that was the best outcome. So yeah, PLU is a time.
So I think just looking up results real quick at Western Oregon's race, we lost to Willamette and Linfield on the girls' side. And then up in PLU, we lost to Whitman, Whitworth, George Fox. So that's 5. So that, I think that puts us at, 6th in the conference, after two weekends in a row. And, I know our goals, I know I talked regularly about being much higher than that throughout the year, but I guess a lot of people don't think about strategy as it comes to racing. It's just, hey, get fit, and the faster you run, the better your team does. But, Adeline, what do you think? What did you think about that switch of the workouts? And, now looking back at it, about how that might have helped bring us closer together.
Yeah, there was definitely a shift. There wasn't so much of just go do these intervals, go do get through pace day or whatever. It became very focused on, you girls need to run together and you need to do this together. And even with, I don't know, maybe we had finished with 400s or something on the track after a run, you would make us run them all together, I remember. And I think that definitely was oh, like, okay, I can run next to this person and it's fine. And that definitely translated into our future races. And we finally figured it out, really.
Yeah. Well, I think the next race is Willamette, so we'll talk about that in a second. And Sean, I believe I remember this being the first race I kind of, um, we didn't totally go from the gun. We still had a little reserved initially, but this is the first one that I think, and Jeff, you also can piggyback on this, that I think I got real excitable and said, let's take a shot. We were racing the defending conference champ, and so talk a little bit through, I guess, your first real battle with Colin from UPS.
Sure. Well, yeah, it might be a bit of a stretch to call this race a battle between me and him, but
The first one we targeted him, or I guess that partway through the race, I started alerting
yeah,
you.
yeah, I think because I ran with Matt for maybe the first 6K of this race. We were really relaxed, just kind of running consistent 5:15 to 5:20 pace, and then maybe after about 6,000 meters, I kind of broke away from Matt and started to. I think yeah, you told me, Coach Matt. You kind of pointed up in the distance at Colin and said, like, "Oh, you know who we're going for? We're going for that white jersey up there." And so, because yeah, Matt and I started maybe around 30th place in the pack and just slowly worked up together. And yeah, that I guess, and just slowly and surely, before I knew it, I was in second place and trying to catch that first place way out in the distance. And maybe he was, I don't know, 50 meters ahead of me. There's still quite some distance, but maybe within reach. And
He got you by 14 seconds, but if you were second in that race, Matt was fourth, and what did that kind of show you about your, I guess, two sides of the coin: the patience of being conservative to some degree early and just running your race early, but then the confidence of working through the field and finishing strong.
Yeah, this race was definitely a huge confidence booster because starting off so slow and finishing well up. I mean, this is definitely not the most efficient way to run the race. And so I thought maybe if I go out more aggressively, I could probably run a better time in future races. And also seeing my time in this race is around 25:30, I think. That was kind of the first time in maybe 2 years that I had seen a time that low. And so that was also very exciting.
I think we ran the same time this meet, Sean. Like
Oh, that's
6K
right.
and 8K.
That's right.
Yep.
Pretty funny.
So then the next race is Willamette, and Sean, will stay with you. That one definitely, I gave you a little bit more of the green light. I know Matt was battling some calf pains leading up to that race, so I had him be a little bit more conservative, and he was running with Miguel and Owen. We had a much smaller men's team, so our pack mentality was in like 2s and 3s. So I know that Willamette was way more of a green light for you. So this was more just that battle from the gun with the lead group of guys, and talk about that race.
Right. Yeah. This race definitely went well. So yeah, Matt was having some injuries, so right from the gun, I kind of went ahead and was on my own. Didn't have any teammates around me, which is too bad because I was enjoying running with Matt definitely. But I think I just kind of tucked in around maybe 20th place. Just kind of stayed there, just running at that consistent maybe 20th to 15th place for the first couple miles, if I remember correctly. And I just kind of just sat there, ran consistent paces, and then maybe with 3,000 meters to go, I just started slowly working up. It took me a while to start working my way up the pack. And I remember where I made up a ton of ground. I went from maybe 10th place or 12th place up to 4th place, all on kind of the far back stretch where there's just this slight uphill. I just kind of, on that slight uphill, everyone else was fading because there's maybe 2,000 meters to go. I just worked my way from 10th to 4th, and before I knew I was in 4th place. And I remember you, Coach Matt, you're watching this race and you're getting really excited, kind of jumping and like just yelling loudly, just and that energy I definitely felt that energy, and that definitely helped a lot. And this is another race where I kind of wasn't definitely running with Colin, but I could see him in the distance. That last 2,000 meters, I was running in a group of 3.
Yeah.
And one of them, I mean, all 3 of us, we could see Colin in the distance, and one of them said, like, "Oh, let's try to go get him." And all 3 of us tried to work together to try to slowly gain ground on Colin. And we couldn't quite do it. And I ended up getting 4th in that race, I believe.
Yeah, that's a unique, kind of touch on that unique part of our sport, that sometimes you're working with competitors to, even if they're not on your team.
Definitely.
I remember watching this race. I think we were either cooling up or cooling down or warming up. I don't remember if we raced before or after you, Sean, but I remember watching it, and I do remember you being like towards the front, like 20th, like, go Sean. And then all of a sudden we lose sight of you while you're on that back stretch. And then you just come down this hill and you're like sprinting across this field in this group of 3. And we're like, and Colin had already gone past, I guess we didn't see him or something. We're like, is that the front of the race? Like, is that Sean? It was super exciting to watch that all unfold.
Yeah, this was a great race. And then, seeing my time at the end as well, I think it was something along the lines of 24:51.
Yeah.
And that's a huge PR for me. That's 25 seconds PR since that outlier time sophomore year, even. So, that was a huge confidence booster. I did not expect to even get close to that time.
And then kind of a weird happenstance there. Matt also pretty much right at his PR, even though he was held back, a little initially. And I know he was frustrated after that race. It's we had a lot of good things happen last year, but it definitely wasn't without some bumps in the road. But I know he was frustrated even with that PR, just because he saw some of the times other people were getting and had kind of wanted that same big jump for himself.
I believe this was the time that Coach and I went from, well, I know that they're going to get better, like as a team, like you guys are going to do better than the previous year. But this was the first one where we thought like, oh, we have some real potential here because of the standout performances that everybody kind of had. Like you said, everybody was cutting their times. Jack, do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, this meet in particular, the previous year, my freshman year and Sean's junior year, this is a good story about Ryan Goff. But I came up behind Sean at this meet. I gave him a big hug, and I thought he was talking to his parents, and now I know Sean's parents. They're kind of iconic in the program. But came up, gave Sean a big hug before the race, and it wasn't Sean's parents, it was Ryan Goff, and now we have kind of the iconic team cutest picture ever.
It's my favorite picture ever. It's adorable.
But I didn't know I was giving Sean a big hug in front of the media. It was a good go at it. This part of the season last year, it was tough for me. I mean, we had 6 guys in general. I really wanted to be out there, and I was getting healthier, but I was still hurting. But it's a process, and it was part of it. And it was good.
Yes, that picture.
There's the hug. There's the hug. So, Jack, wishing he had the hair that Sean had in that picture.
I don't know.
Oh.
It's getting there, Jack.
Important part of the sport. Important part of the sport.
So, Adeline, we're this. I vividly remember this meet being a turning point meet for us, but I think your memory of that 800 workout probably even points to that being more of the turning point for our team. But this meet, I think we ended up 6th in the conference. We lost to Whitman, Willamette, Pacific, Whitworth, and PLU. And then it was a nice tight battle between the next few as well. But I vividly remember this meet being so excited about how the pack of girls finally ran together.
Yeah.
And, so talk a little bit about that and whether it just clicked and it just happened, or if there was anything that was spoken or unspoken about how it worked.
I think you said something like, I don't care what you do the rest of the race, just run the first 400 meters together at a 92 or something. Like, that was all that needed to happen. And we did it, but we were in the back of the mass of people running. Like,
I remember setting up a cone that meet now.
We measured out the 2 and the 4, and we gave you guys splits. And I think everybody hit it except for Madeline. She was too fast.
Yeah. And we were
right on.
We were all just back there, and we're like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing. And it kind of forced us to work together and move up together throughout that race. Because I remember those first 2 miles, we just were passing people constantly, just together. And it was 5 of us. It was me, Jillian, Jen, Etta, and Alexandra. And we would just go like 2 on one side and 3 on the other of like these girls that are kind of like, they're doing well, but we just would like go around them. And that's such just a powerful place to be. And it sucks to be the person getting passed by like people on both sides, but it's so powerful to do it to your competitors. And I think we also had instructions to stay together through at the 2 mile mark. And we did that pretty well. I think Jen tried to take off after a mile or a mile and a half, but the rest of us really stayed together. And I think Etta and I finished basically at the same time. And that was just a crazy race. Like, we had so much energy throughout the whole thing, just running together, and it was so fun. I think I matched for the first time. Like, I matched my PR from high school cross country in that race.
2014 for you.
Yeah. And that, I think it was 2013 or something, was my PR from junior year of high school cross country for a 5K. So that was pretty exciting. And I was like, all right, I'm back in shape after a rough freshman year of running. So definitely a turning point, that race.
Yeah. And Jeff, I remember a turning point with Jen in that race as well, because, as much as we talk about group mentality, pack mentality, and trying to, run as a group, there are, you have to have the individual considerations for, how do people mentally respond to that. And I remember talking with Jen afterward about, did she talk with her teammates? Did she let them know she was going to take off, and trying to teach how to communicate within the race? Do you remember, much about that moment?
Yeah, I think afterwards we asked her, like, because it was a very sudden move. I think she followed the instructions, which,
Yeah.
as Adeline pointed out, it was like, you guys run together for the first 2 miles, and then it was like she hit the 2 mile mark and then just took off.
I honestly think it was before that, but
Yeah, well,
I don't
it
know.
might
It
have
was
been,
somewhere in there.
but she kind of followed the instructions and then she just took off, and it was very like dramatic. And I think afterwards, like it was a solid move, and she ended up PRing quite a bit as well. Like ran a really great race. Um, but I think we did ask her afterwards. So did you tell them that you were going to go? Like, did you tell your teammates? And she was like, no. And um, we're like, well, you know, you guys were working so well together from the beginning. What would have happened if you maybe had worked together even further?
I think we all really wanted to recreate what had happened 2 weeks prior. And I remember the gun goes off, and this course, it's kind of like it was bottlenecked pretty quick. Like it got skinny really fast. And I just remember like looking over my shoulder and not seeing any of my teammates. And I was like, oh crap, like how are we gonna run together? And then I just hear Etta like, I'm right here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And yeah, we really just were all together that basically the whole time. And it was a 2K loop,
Yeah,
and we
much.
did it 3 times. We came around past the finish line with one loop to go, and you, coach, were just standing there screaming at us that like, if we run together, we break 24 together or something. And I was like, oh, what? Because I had never broken 25, much less 24. And I was like, all right, guys, let's go. And I think we all ran in the low 24s, right?
Yeah, Madeline and Sam were under. They both had kind of had individual plans, and then the pack, it was 24:04, 24:10 for you, Adeline, 24:13, 24:16. That was our next group of 4. So yeah, we were all packed in there real good in that low 24s. And as the team, again, we finished kind of middle of the race overall, but relative to the conference schools, Whitman, PLU, Pacific than us, just barely beat Whitworth, and Puget Sound was not too far off either. So we started the year, kind of, based off of last year's results, we were a bottom third team, and we talked regularly about, middle third, and, anything from 4, 5, 6, fourth, fifth, sixth was kind of that middle third. And then how do we break through to that top third if we figure things out? So, we couple races in a row, we kind of solidified that we knew we belonged in that middle third at least.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling us this, that like which teams we beat or not from the conference. And I think like it's the first time since I'd been on the team that we had beat Whitworth, and that was really surprising to me. I definitely remember being like, what? Like we beat Whitworth? So that was exciting.
So heading into conference, what do you, Adeline, what are you guys feeling, thinking? What do you guys believe is possible? What do you recall about what we talked about heading into that meet?
I don't remember much from a team perspective, because this was the point, I think a week after our home meet, I was injured, or figured out I was injured really, because I think probably at this home meet I probably should have taken a little easier. But yeah, so I think we really had our sights on somewhere in the like fourth, fifth, sixth range, like we were saying, and maybe third. And I think we sat down in room 10 one day and did some race math and said, okay, if we all run the best we've ever run, we could win or get second or be way up there, which was exciting to see because going from last in conference consistently freshman year, that was exciting, but I don't know if I fully believed it at that point. So I think we really were just focusing on, okay, let's recreate what's happened at Willamette and at the home meet and see what we can do.
Yeah. And I think we, overall the times got faster at conference. I think nearly everybody, ran. No, that not with the girls. A couple of the times got better, but I know Madeline, that wasn't her fastest time of the year. Sam, it wasn't her fastest time.
It wasn't mine either.
Definitely wasn't yours. You starting to feel banged up at that point, but Ryan's got the results up there. We got third. It was real close though.
So
Whitworth, Willamette, PLU is like 5 points for 4 spots there, and what if anything did that tell you guys or reinforce to you guys that we didn't even all have to have our best days, but if we kind of believed as a team that these things could happen, and
yeah, I think we really it was kind of crazy because I didn't have my best race. I wasn't feeling great. And I finish and we're all hanging out. And then I think you come over and you're like, guys, I think we're third. And we're like, what? No. And then we realized it was by like 5 points. And we're like, that's crazy. Like, it really solidified that we belonged with all these other teams that had been beating us for so long. And the fact that we came out on top of all of them, that was like, I never would have thought that would happen for us. Just the being third, like, it's just crazy.
Jack, for you did get to race this one, and I was very, it meant a lot to me to have you running again, and I know you were still and to some degree still are going through the transition of what running, your frame of mind towards running, as you were saying earlier. But what did that mean to you then? And, looking back, what did it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it should have been, I raced. I've really, at that point in time, I was developing in the saga of Jack, be where you're at. I wasn't happy with it. I wanted to go out and have a good race right out the bat. I guess my mental preparedness was different than my physical preparedness at that point in time, for sure, just because I essentially had a year where I wasn't really competing, and then that was the breakthrough after a year off. And it was I think it should have been a step forward. It should have been, Jack, you're coming back now. It wasn't at that time, but I'd like to think about it that way now, for me. And I wish, when I think about it, I wish I'd been able to enjoy it more. I wish I went out there and I wish I would have went out there and been like, Jack, you are not in this race yet. You, you know, you weren't physically able to race 2 weeks ago. You're not in this race yet. Go out there and enjoy it. But I found that I'm an extremely easy person to motivate. And, you know, you go out there before the race, you know, you hear this boys team can beat George Fox maybe. This boys team can maybe, you know, win a conference championship. This boys team can maybe do X, Y, Z. And I wanted to be a part of that. I really did. My body was ready. And I had the race I should have had based on where I was at.
Yeah, and Ryan threw this picture up real quick. I very, very much remember a couple things from this race, and we'll talk to Sean in a second about his battle. But I remember that as he's battling for the conference title, I stayed out here to take this picture of you because I knew what this moment might mean to you later. I knew how frustrating it was in the moment. You know, nobody likes having, you know, being at the back of a race. Nobody who's a competitor enjoys knowing they wish they were farther up, etc. But I remember taking this picture thinking this might be meaningful to him down the road. So, you know, this was one thing that did mean a lot to me at that race.
Appreciate that. I think it will be one of these days. I think it's going on the list of, you know, things I'm trying to be proud of myself for is that race, because, you know, I come off a broken leg into you know, a couple weeks of good summer training, and then I get drugged by a horse and I break my hand in the same week. I don't know. I think it has the potential to be something I'm proud of, but I'm not there yet in my mentality.
No, it's tough to have the reflective mentality when you're still in the moment, you know.
Yeah.
And until you graduate, you're still kind of in that moment. But
for sure, I got time.
Ryan, I'm gonna if you want to timestamp this, I'm gonna flip back to the girls' race real quick. I don't know if you want to chop it and throw it back later, but I remember the girls' race, and I don't know how much Jeff and I were around each other this race. I think we split up a little bit for this one, but I remember feeling again kind of like almost the girls were too patient this race and a little bit too reserved early, and it probably was more a factor of other teams going out harder because we were running together. We were running pretty well, but I just remember right around the 3/4 mile to go, all of a sudden it seemed like our girls had like teleported up 20 spots, and all of a sudden it went from me being a little more melancholy about, okay, where are we, what are we doing, to, oh crap, they listened, they're doing it right.
Yeah, we had kind of split up because we were like trying to spread ourselves out because the course was quite spread out, and so we wanted to be all over the place to be able to support them and give feedback when necessary. And I remember thinking the same thing, like when we would pass each other in like moments, we'd be like, what are they doing, you know, or like, what's going on, where are they? And
They're
like,
listening.
yeah.
Be patient.
And, yeah, and they were doing what we said, you know, like just be patient. And then it was somewhere around, it was the cemetery.
Yeah, it was the cemetery loop.
It was around the cemetery loop the last time that it went from like, you know, we're in that middle third to holy crap, like they're in the top third.
Yep. And then,
Yeah.
go ahead, Alan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I remember that race going out so fast too. And us in the pack definitely also got caught up a little bit in that because I fell off earlier than I wanted to of the pack. And I knew I was probably not gonna finish it in the front of the pack that race, just the way I was feeling. And so I fell off probably before 2 miles. I was like, they were just dragging me along. I was maybe 20 feet back, I don't know. But they still dragged me along, like I was still passing people. So
Yeah.
that race went out really fast.
Yeah. And that,
All
but
right.
that also shows the power of the pack, you know, and how it actually works in cross country.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, timestamp. We're jumping back to the men. So Sean, I very rarely do do I get the chance as a coach to really create specific strategies. And I think most of what you've heard of me talking about the girls races is very normal and average with my philosophies of, be patient early, work together, and then let's attack to some degree. And it's a lot of times still generic plans that once the gun goes off, we'll fine tune it. And I very much remember with yours at this meet, it was very specific. It was a very specific plan. And I'll let you kind of elaborate on it, but I remember talking about being on his shoulder. There's the picture. That picture just typifies exactly what we talked about. But making sure he was uncomfortable with how much you were there, and then even having a point in the race where you were going to take control of the race, at least to the degree of furthering that discomfort for him, and so talk about, your recollection of that race plan, and then just how you felt it was working and coming in, happening.
Sure. So yeah, I think if I remember, this race was 2 larger loops and then a shorter loop. I think maybe 2 3K loops and a 2K loop, something around that. And our plan was that first large loop, I would just be kind of right in Colin's shadow, just right on his shoulder, just kind of right behind him, not making any moves yet, but just one step behind the whole way. And then that second big loop we talked about, now I'm going to start kind of at every turn, just kind of trying to poke in front of him a little bit, try to kind of make him a little bit more uncomfortable, make sure that he knows that I'm right there, and kind of try to take the lead at some points. We talked about that final short 2K loop just being anything I have left. So that was the plan that we talked about.
Yeah, at some point there's a good little video clip of it. You actually took the lead, and I think it was during that. We knew it was going to be a 3-person race, but I remember you kind of came around. Maybe it was the cemetery again with a mile to go, kind of leading. There it is, and I was standing near your mom at that point, and I said, "Are you watching this? Because something special is happening." And I remember saying that. So what were you feeling when you took the lead from him, and
Sure.
mile to go, and how that last mile was playing out?
Sure. Yeah. So the first 2 laps when it was planned, I just followed the plan exactly. First lap, I just was right behind him. There were a lot of sharp 90-degree turns on that course, and so I just kind of stayed back, tried to take every turn as efficiently as possible, and tried to save as much energy as possible. And then, yeah, we got to this mile to go, final stretch. And I was thinking there's just the slightest uphill kind of at that mile to go, maybe 1,000 meters to go mark. And in general, this course was just dead flat. But yeah, there's just this slightest incline where maybe over 100 meters, like there's about like a couple meter gain in elevation. And I know that maybe one of my relative strengths is that I'm pretty good with hills. And so I just kind of took that slight incline, kind of like the smallest opportunity to just say like, this is where I'm going to try to like get a good lead on Colin. This is kind of my opportunity because this is maybe the one advantage I have over him. I think I could beat him at a hill, and just the slightest hill. And so yeah, that's where I went for it, with maybe 1,000 meters to go. And yeah, I did get a couple steps ahead of him. I took the lead. Yeah, took the opportunity. But then yeah, as soon as we hit the flat, yeah, he started catching up to me. Yeah, I tried my best to hang on to the lead, but yeah, once we hit that flat, he kind of caught back to me. Then he took a lead a couple steps ahead of me, and kind of maintained that to the finish. But yeah, very very close race. Definitely my favorite race of all time. Yeah. First thing I said to Colin when I finished was like, that was the best race I've ever had. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that race as well. You mentioned that just a 3-person race. Because yeah, just me, Colin, and Michael from Willamette. The 3 of us. After even just the first mile, we were maybe had like a 20-meter gap on everyone, and that gap just kind of kept increasing. It's just the 3 of us the whole race. And so that was a really really cool opportunity just to have a very kind of personal and very, I don't know, intimate race, I suppose. Not something that I had, not the type of race I've had before. A lot of times cross country races, you start maybe farther behind, you just kind of churn through people, like you pass a lot of people during the race. But yeah, this whole race, yeah, for the whole like 4.5 miles of this race is just the 3 of us,
Yeah.
all racing together, which is really cool.
I remember right around that 1,000 to go, I lost my voice because I think I was at the downhill at 1,200 to go. There was that. I remember the day before we went there, and Jeff and I had talked about this is the downhill where we've got to insert a little bit more, and you've got to start visualizing where the finish is, because you don't see the finish till coming around the barn right at the end. And I remember standing at that point and I'd lost my voice, and I just in my head I'm screaming like, you can break him, like you need to up it one more notch right now, and you can break him. And I think that tether just stayed just close enough that he was able to slinky.
Yeah, that's exactly where I tried to break him, because it's just around that tree, and there's a downhill, and that's straight into the uphill. And then, yeah, that uphill part is where I just gave it everything I had left. Really tried to this is my opportunity to kind of get a big enough lead to break him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wasn't quite enough. Yeah.
And then
after the race, yeah, the first thing Colin said to me after the race was like, he said, I was so scared. Which, I mean, that's all. I mean, I'll take that. Yeah. It's a huge compliment.
Yeah. You what did it feel like to be, for the team results to also pop up that the guys got third that day?
Yeah, that was really exciting. I remember again just kind of like standing at the finish line, watching my teammates come in. I remember Miguel did really well. I think maybe he broke 26 minutes for the first time, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And yeah, just a lot of really good results. And I kind of got the sense that the team was doing really well, but I didn't really know exactly what our placing was. And so, yeah, I was thrilled and surprised when I heard that we had maybe gotten third. Then when it was confirmed that we did get third, yeah, that was very exciting. Yeah. Um,
The next thing we head into regionals, and um, Jeff, I'm gonna kind of ask your thoughts here, but my feelings are, we're heading into regionals not feeling full strength physically. I don't think like mentally we were worn out. I don't think, it was a classic peak too early kind of thing. But I just remember, Owen got a little banged up. A workout that he and I were designing to challenge something he wanted challenged, and we just got a little too zealous, and hurt himself in that workout. And Miguel sprained his ankle heading into regionals, and Matt was still battling, some a little bit of calf tightness, but some residual mentality from that. Then the girls' side, Adeline was, still hanging on by a thread at that point with her. I think it was your knees.
My quad.
Yeah. And I don't think we were going in full strength physically, but I still felt the confidence was there. Like it was almost like, I don't know how to say it. I wasn't unconfident in where we were headed, but I just didn't feel like we were going to steamroll that same momentum. I don't remember if you recall how we were feeling going into that race.
I remember you and me talking and thinking that there was a wide range of possibilities. It was either going to be, we're going to continue to roll in spite of those physical limitations that you described. Like everybody was feeling a little bit banged up. But, or it was, maybe this will really get us and maybe they don't have any more left. So we didn't really know. I think all year you and I had talked about what we had seen as potential in this team. And so we knew that they could do well in spite of being tired and kind of run down physically. But yes, 100%, I do agree with you that there was this confidence in their demeanor, I think, that I picked up on, because they started to kind of internalize what we had been aware of. And I don't know if you guys specifically want to respond to that with like your own feelings, but I think there was this, I don't know, just a belief, I guess, in what was possible.
Yeah, I agree. On the girls' side, there definitely was a consensus of like, we just got third in conference. Like, let's go really kill it at regionals. But I mean, me personally wasn't feeling great, just injury-wise. And I don't think I ran those 2 weeks leading up to regionals. The first time I ran was the day before. Like, I did a 20-minute shakeout or something. I was just swimming a lot in those 2 weeks, which I enjoy swimming, but did not do well for my confidence running. But I think everybody else was really ready to go have a good race.
And I think as a team, we didn't necessarily talk about places because it's two distinct sections in our region. The Northwest section is all of our conference schools. You got the one outlier school, Colorado College, and then Southern Cal is the other section. And their races are so hard to read because it's so hot for a portion of their season, and then some of them are dust bowls like the the race we ran at. So it's tough to really gauge what the other teams are doing and performing. So I don't remember place goals necessarily, but I know that we had goals of Madeline getting all region, Sean getting all region and getting to nationals, and there was an outside shot of one or two other people getting all region. for each gender. And I remember that was probably my only expectation going into the race. But it was, from my standpoint, it was very reassuring that it was like the team had, I don't want to say they had more confidence than me, but you could see that their confidence was growing, and they weren't worried about some of the other things that were happening. And our girls ended up 9th that day, and our guys 10th. So going from incomplete men's team the year before to 10th, and next to last to 9th for our women. And as far as conference schools, we were 2nd for the women that day. Whitman was the only team that beat us on the women's side, and for the men we were 3rd, just by 3 points. So we were 3 points from getting 2nd for our conference. So
with Owen falling.
Yeah. So from the individual race, I think at that point, the primary individual race goal of the weekend clearly was helping Sean get to nationals. That was the one, non-culminating moment of the weekend. Everything else, we knew that was our last race. And so with Sean, there was that extra little necessary angle talking about getting to nationals and how we set up for that. And complete opposite of the week before. We'd done all the research. I think Sean's dad had done twice as much research as me, and I thought I had done plenty. And we had Sean pegged for likely being around the 5th or 6th best guy in the region, and there was many of those guys ahead of him that were all from the teams we expected to qualify. So we thought Sean would be somewhere between like the 1st and 3rd individual. And that race goes out, and Sean was buried. And that was a big concern for me early in the race. And Sean, I don't know if you want to talk about how you felt kind of early in the race, and then how it progressed.
Yeah, that was a tough start. Yeah, this race has a really tough start. The same thing happened to me 2 years ago, where I just went out too slow and got buried. Two years before this race. And then this race, I was even expecting it. I knew I had to get out fast, because otherwise this race, it just narrows up so quickly and you just get buried. And I tried to go out fast, but it's just something that I was not used to. I was used to going out at my own pace, and kind of because I was used to just thinner fields, being able to go out at my own pace. But yeah, I immediately got buried here, and so maybe started in 40th, 50th place.
And the race doesn't really get too wide throughout it. It's wide enough, but it's not too wide when you're in that main pack from like 10 to 50 is really wide. And and it's dusty, and but I remember you like staying pretty calm, and there was an urgency to how you were running, but there was still a calmness, and able to move up through the pack, and ultimately get to a position where we knew you were getting the nationals, and then B, I thought you were going to get Colin that day. I think that was the first time you were significantly ahead of him for a while, and he just I think he knew he was going to nationals at that point. I think there was a little pride of, I'm just not going to get beat by Sean.
Yeah, we definitely both kind of had tough races that day. I think maybe we were both a bit tired from conference, because I think that was definitely a big effort for me. Hopefully it's not too much of a stretch for me to say that was a big effort for him as well. But so yeah, that was that was definitely a very tough race. But after getting buried, I just tried to like stay calm, go out slow. I knew that there'd be a couple opportunities on those uphill sections to pass people and work my way up. So I just kind of focused on like those uphill sections are my opportunity to slowly work my way up through this group. And yeah, I just tried not to waste energy in other sections.
I thought you were gonna die on me in the hotel room after that. I was pretty worried about you.
Yeah, that race was definitely the
Well,
hardest
So
effort.
goofy,
Yeah.
Sean. After that race, it was. I remember.
Because yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you were like, we just drinking so much water. You took your water bottle and shower afterward. You were out of it.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, starting out in 40th place and knowing that I have to get into the top 15 or so to guarantee nationals was definitely a tough race. Yeah.
Well, one week later, we kind of get that. We actually beat Colin the next week at nationals, but talk about that nationals experience. And I know we had I tried to share with you what it might be like, but tell me what the race start actually ends up feeling like and what it is like for you.
Sure. Yeah. So the start to regionals for me is kind of a lot and overwhelming and not what I'm used to. And I just had I had never been to any meet like nationals before, which are and nationals is I guess regionals is maybe there's 15 guys that kind of have a similar time to me that are all kind of going for that fast start. For nationals, there's 200 guys with a similar time as me, kind of, or faster, all going for a fast start. And so, that first 400 meters, I was just immediately in, I don't know, like close to last place. Just like everyone just got out so fast. I was not expecting it at all. I'm just not used to getting out quickly. And so again, this race was a lot of just slowly working my way up throughout the race. Yeah, I was probably in the bottom 30 people in that first 400 meters, maybe. Everyone just got out so quickly. So definitely a very overwhelming start and experience. I just simply had not had any practice getting out in a race this big before.
Seeing if I can pull up results here real quick from that meet. There's they have the splits. Here we go.
Okay, interesting.
So Ryan, I'm putting this in the chat. And I don't know if it's I don't know if the link I sent you is going to be Sean's specific link, or if you just like control find his name, click on his name, and then it brings up a nice little sidebar.
Okay. I got the 3K, 4K on this one, if that's helpful. Or I can pull up the one you sent. Let me find the chat.
The one I sent has a nice graphic of just him and his place throughout.
Okay.
So hit men's 8K and then type his name or scroll down to 129th. Click on his name and then it'll Yeah, brings it up. So Sean, you were 222 out of 280 at the 1K, and you're running in a very sloppy conditions. Not too far off your PR pace. And then, what I think I remember talking with you about is that there was a chance you could be an All-American. That was top 40. And I know looking at the end result of 129th, sometimes that doesn't feel like I was that close or capable. It was about a minute 40 ahead of where you were. 40 seconds ahead of where you were, which can feel like an eternity, but at the same time, I know that wasn't, your best race. And I remember being with Jeff, talking about how, you were moving through the field well. I thought you'd probably start more in the 150s, 160s than 220s, but at a K, it really doesn't, 5 seconds could be the difference between that. But you moved up real well, and then there was just a point where it just kind of stalled there, where I thought you might have that big, strong close. It just didn't, that didn't happen. And, but it was a great experience, and I'm, was thankful to help you kind of realize that, that big step forward, that year.
Yeah, it was just a really cool experience. I mean, my goal was just to be there, and but so yeah, it's just, I think it definitely stalled up at the end because working through from 220 to 120, I guess I worked through maybe 90 people throughout the course of that race. Definitely just drained a lot of energy, and I just did not have much at the end. Definitely a very, just also mentally exhausting race, just trying to slowly kind of weave my way through all these people. Probably this race, maybe I probably panicked more than at regionals, and maybe tried to work up too quickly. Because in these races, it's a lot easier to make up time at the end when the field is a little more thin than towards the beginning. But I don't know. It's hard to say what. I mean, I guess I just need to get out faster if I were to do it again. But that's just something that I've never been good at and don't have a lot of practice with, I guess.
I remember specifically having this discussion with Sean about, kind of expectation, when the expectation or when the goal is to qualify for nationals, to make it there, that kind of caps it potentially. If the whole season the goal had been, I'm going to be an All-American, things might have been a little bit different. Also, of course, you expended a lot of emotional energy battling Colin at conference. And then I think I distinctly remember you saying after the regional meet, you said, that was the hardest race I've run.
Yep. I remember that too.
And it's just like, that took a lot out of you, man. And then, of course, moving through a big field is really, really hard. And in sloppy, straw-covered ground is of course really challenging. That's how it was in Louisville. But and kind of segueing like that off of, when the goal is high, even if you don't achieve it, you're still going to be pretty close. You're still going to get a high level. I don't know. It's not super clear, coherent exactly, but I don't know.
No, I think it's a good, just that good lesson for what's next. You it's important to set those goals. And I think, as Adeline kind of referred to earlier, like, wow, that was a team we hadn't beat before. I'm surprised we did that. And okay, we got third. I wasn't sure we'd be capable of that. And to some degree, those things, I don't want to say they just kind of happened, but because there had to be some level of belief in what you're doing for them to happen. But it just kind of reinforces the importance of believing that really special things are possible and not being afraid to set your goals higher than what might be comfortable for you. Because if you achieve those intermediate goals and don't have a concept of what's next, it makes it harder to re-up along the way. And so it's, as we take what we did last year and we try to keep talking about, I know our team is likely to some degree tired of hearing me say we are going to be a national level program. We're going to be a national level program. This is what it's going to take. But I think that seed has to be planted and start growing, so that it's not about just getting to nationals, or it's not about just winning conference, or just improving at regionals. That once we get to nationals, there is an expectation of a goal there as well. And so it's great that Sean was able to have the success he was going to have, but it was also great, that in some way he failed at that meet relative to what he might have totally been capable of, because it helps, for the team's perspective, it helps when that elite person is brought to reality a little bit, and it can help share that experience with the rest of the team. And
go ahead, Jeff, please.
I was just going to say, from a program standpoint, I think it just helps everybody to see that we do have to set those sights high, so that I don't think there's anything to be not proud of with the year last year. Making it to nationals is a huge deal in and of itself, and it really laid the groundwork for years to come, I think.
And from a team standpoint too, I think we were fortunate to come out on the winning side of those close battles at the conference meet, to really open our eyes that we went from last to third, and that we went from last and incomplete at regionals to top 10. And I'm hopeful that through this year's non-racing, and that we're able to still kind of grasp onto the ideas that we started fostering last year, and that we see what we're capable of. And I think, like we alluded to, both of our conference and regional meets weren't necessarily even our best meets, and we're still learning. We were still learning at the end of that last year, and I'm really excited that we can take those lessons and keep fostering and cultivating and honing them, because I think all the things that I browbeat incessantly about this program being capable of national level success is a real reality.